Okay. Um, can we talk a little bit about how, there's a lot of people that bring up that artists at death row, while they may have cars and they may have houses and they may have jewelry and all this stuff, that when it comes to the houses and the cars, that none of them were in their name. Can you speak to that a little bit? And then specifically, people like to talk about how Tupac's house wasn't in his name at the time that he passed. Can you shed some insight on that?
Yeah. Yeah, people forget how hard it was to get loans back in those days and stuff like that. Even though they were making money and all of that. Number one, and more importantly, what does Tupac Shakur have, y'all? That we all forget about, that we were all getting worked out. When he came to death row, he had about 5 or 6 major judgments still pending that were in the process of getting paid off. And they were still trying to work on getting taken care of. Even the people when they had the shooting at the fairgrounds in Oakland, that still hadn't been settled. So what y'all don't know is ain't no title company or no good title officer is going to be putting stuff in your name when you're about to have this big judgment slapped on it the next day when escrow closed. So we had a lot of that getting sorted out to why things wasn't immediately put in Tupac's name. What the house that in Calabasas that was in escrow never was purchased by Death Row. So the person that's putting out that house was in Sharitha Knight's name. It was a lease with an option to buy. Is how they wrote it up, where Tupac was getting in the house. Once they got all the judgments and everything taken care of, then the house was going to be purchased, and they were going to get a bank to do the financing on the home. The house was never purchased. It was only a lease to own, and it was going to eventually get put in Park name, but that's what the real was as far as that one particular property. The spot on Wilshire, they wasn't selling those then. They were all just lease properties. And automobiles back then. Guys back in the mid-90s, and still today, I still don't want a car after 3 years. Y'all probably do. But most people back then were leasing cars, especially that had money like that, because they didn't want, the only thing you wanted to buy were classics, lowriders, 56 Chevys, 57 Bel Airs, 64 lowriders and all of that. Those were still in Park name, the lowriders and stuff like that. But a Rolls Royce, Corniche, it wasn't feasible or smart to purchase those vehicles at that time. You got into them to drive around, to look good, and then in 3 or 4 years, you got rid of them and got something else. The Mercedes-Benz and all of that. Do y'all know how often nobody's styles was getting changed? No one wanted to drive around in I had a 1996 V12 CL. That motherfucker changed his body style in 99, traded it in, and got the circle body one. That's just how the game worked, y'all. And you were able to do that when you did leases. And that's just how everybody was doing. So all of that, death row, everything was in death row. What you care to have a lease, as long as you was the one driving the car? Suge didn't have the car in his names. They all were leased. Most all those cars were leased if they wasn't a classic. And so that's how it was operated back then. That's why he did do that. It was a bunch of leases. But that's how you did things, because leasing was new in the mid-90s, early 90s. That wasn't a big thing and that's popular because you always were changing your cars. And that's just unfortunately how the game went. And as far as the housing and stuff like that, as we proved, yeah, you buy property. That's one thing you do. I ain't telling you to lease properties or rent and all of that. I'll say go and buy your properties and stuff like that. But the reason Tupac Shakur, he was, number one, he wasn't due any money yet. As I keep telling you, his album came out February the 13th, and he died in September. His accounting was due 180 days from there, which is 6 months later, which would have made it sometime in August the 13th, something like that. But if everything would have been tallied up, the amount of money that was given to him during that time period, he would have been in like everybody else, in an unrecouped status. But Suge knew he still had him. He still had 3 more albums to do it, so he didn't mind making him happy, making him able to live to look good. But those ain't the ones that's really complaining. Snoop, he's complaining a little bit, but as I proved to y'all with the evidence of the title and all of that, he was lying. He had a house in his name. He had 2 or 3 other houses. He had one in Toluca Lake. He had a spot on Wilshire, as he always talk about, next to Tupac. And he had another apartment. And then I guess it was just those 3 properties that I remember. He had Toluca Lake, Claremont, and the penthouse. So yeah, that's what happened. But the main thing was, y'all got to remember, the people that was on death row at the time had legal issues. And y'all say, well, Snoop made all this money. He sold all this money. Ask any artist back then. They were making more than $1 a record. $1 a record is what an artist will eventually gross. If he sold $5 million records for death row at that time, from 93 to 95, 96, let's say that, 96. If he had 5 million records sold then, the murder case alone, he was recouped from Suge Knight. So anything else, from all the security, all the $50,000 a month advances, all the cars that was getting leased in his name, the down payment for his house, the $660,000 house he purchased, which was a lot of money in 1994. All of that different stuff, trust me, he was in an unrecouped status. He left death row with a parting gift of $1 million, still being unrecouped. And Tupac was about to start making money, but he had a lot of judgments that hadn't been worked out and get paid off. And he had a lot of studio time. Y'all don't know, artists pay for all their studio time. They have to pay for all of their videos, the music videos and all that stuff is recouped by a record company. So when y'all always talking that Suge is the boogeyman, Suge did people wrong and all of that, y'all really don't know your facts. And this is the main question I always ask though. Pac was with Death Row for 11 months when he died. Pac was an artist since 1991. He did what? 3 or 4 movies prior to that? Had his own publishing deal, never had a publishing deal, money with Suge. Why y'all never asked those companies where was Pac money when he was out managing it? Why Suge always get the bad rap in Death Row? 11-month time period. Y'all need to think about that. Suge ain't the bad man that y'all want to put him out to be. And all the people that's talking, I even heard RBX said Suge gave him a BMW. But he was warned by Dr. Dre not to take gifts and all of that, which is cap. Because they always taking cars and stuff like that. And stuff like that. Everybody always hollering about money and this and that. How many people actually did an album on Death Row during the heyday? Okay, I can tell y'all. Dogg Pound, Snoop, Dre, from Tupac. Did y'all know that? Did y'all really know that? Do y'all know when people do guest appearance on songs, how you get paid for that? Do y'all really, really know? Snoop is just now telling y'all today, as big as a house knows, big as a star as he doing, he's out there charging $200,000 for being on people's songs. And that's recouped. That's not a fee. Y'all learn the difference between an advance and a fee. Giving y'all too much game, exposing too many niggas in their lives, and that's why nobody want to with Reg and get mad at Reg, and everybody trying to tear down Reg's character. Because I'll just tell y'all the truth. I got nothing to lose. If y'all really learn the game, if he was just getting $200,000 back then, I mean now, could you imagine what he was getting? But that's Snoop Dogg, who's been big since 187 on a motherfucking car. So, do your other artists get that type of money? Does a RBX demand that type of money? Does a whoever, I'm not gonna call names because I piss off people, do they deserve that type? No. But ask any of them when they appeared on the Murder Was the Case soundtrack. Ask them, be truthful to us. How much did Suge just cut y'all a check for? Did he give you about $75,000 back then? Wasn't you riding around in a car and staying in an apartment and he was advancing you all that money and he was giving you money to live and go to work, go to the studio, we call it work or whatever? Didn't when you signed with the company, did he just give you a gold chain like Ruthless did DOC? Or did he give you an advance? Did he give you a $20,000, $50,000, $25,000 check? Ask them that when they tell y'all Death Row cheated them or something. Ask them when you appear, do y'all know what Favor Nation is, One Nation is? Do y'all know what that means? Do y'all know everybody that appears on an album don't get paid a penny off those albums after 10, 12 tracks? Do y'all know that? It's called Favor Nation. I know I said it wrong. I called it One Nation, Favor Nation. Look up Favor Nation. Y'all learn all of this stuff. So people can't just tell y'all anything. And y'all can believe that about Boogeyman, Bad Man, Suge Knight. Suge Knight was out there making those niggas look good, taking care of their family. Didn't Kenya tell y'all she came up to the office and said they needed a new car and Suge cut her a $50,000 check for Daz? Advance to Daz, not to her, because she ain't did shit for Death Row. But she was his wife, and I'm sure Daz gave him permission and said, yeah, she'll get, give her the money so we can get the car. Y'all gonna stop making that nigga the boogeyman on my watch. It's not gonna keep happening. Only one keep it real about you is corrupt.